everyone, it's Ryan Fowler here with my good friend Jordan Kurtz. Intergame Group live every Saturday except when we're sick. Tim's out sick today. I was sick last week. Jordan's a tiny bit sick. I'm still a little sick. Everyone's sick. But me and Jordan are here today. We have a great show today. We're going to look at this guy who's a life coach, a very popular one. And it's going to be interesting because he's a guy who kind of looks at all sorts of different things. He looks at trauma. He looks at your nervous system, normal psychology. He kind of pulls all the disciplines together. And so I like his approach, and we're going to dive in and see what he's doing and then add our take to it. But before we do that, Jordan, welcome to the show. Introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Jordan Kurtz. Recently, I've been working on the hypnosis business, and I've shifted my approach ever so slightly. So I think I'm going to start targeting founders who sell. So that was my new niche that's coming out. So I'm coming out with trying to build my sales funnel for that, trying to come out with content. I've got I recorded 2 new testimonial videos this week.
All right.
One of them is like an hour long. So,
okay.
So it was, we did a lot of work, so there's a lot to cover. But
is that up on YouTube?
Not yet. I'm
okay.
Just sifting through it to find the best pieces at the moment. But yeah, that's all what's been going on with me.
All right. I did put up a new compilation of 11 testimonials, kind of edited down, packed together. And yeah, I think both Jordan and I are shifting towards helping entrepreneurs, executives, other professionals with performance, because we've just seen such great results helping them. And it's easier for people to spend money when they know they're going to do better at their career in return. So that's always great. But I do have a new 11 testimonial compilation up if you guys want to check that out. But today we are going to look at an interview with a guy named Mastin Kipp. Interesting name. Excuse me, and we're both a little sick. Mastin, he's been life coaching for a while. He's a best-selling author. Hey, Duarte's here. Welcome to the show, P-Dubs. And I think you really just got to kind of listen to him talk, because so he has a life coaching certification program, and he's one of probably the only or very, very few life coaches, again, not just a life coach, but certifying other life coaches, who looks at subconscious trauma. And really the point of what we are diving into today is, why do we do what we do? Every behavior we have has a motivation behind it. And most people go through life doing what they do, and they don't even know what's going on. They don't know what's going on in their subconscious that drives them to do what they do. And so that's what we're going to look at today, because if you're procrastinating, your subconscious mind has a reason to get you to procrastinate. If you have an addiction, or if you lash out at people, your subconscious mind has a reason that it's emotionally motivating you to do that. And your subconscious mind thinks, and oftentimes your subconscious mind is serving you and is motivating you to do things. When you're hungry, you eat. So our subconscious mind thinks it's serving us, and more often than not, it is. Sometimes it isn't. And understanding these underlying drives that motivate us forward or towards any behavior. You consciously don't like a certain behavior. Well, why are you doing it? So he's going to dive into that today. It's going to be interesting. We're going to add our 2 cents worth. Do you have anything you'd like to add before we dive in, Jordan?
I think not particularly.
Okay. And could you cue that to the 6:15 mark and then just start playing it? So it's Tom Bilyeu with Mastin Kipp. This is actually 8 years ago, but Mastin's still very active today in what he does. And it was an interesting clip. So even though it's 8 years old, it was very relevant. It's interesting to watch an 8-year-old clip and still see a lot of what this guy says is absolutely applicable today. So we'll go ahead and dive in.
Definitely.
So I think that the most important thing is to have a very crystal clear understanding of what's the next step by step for you. But most importantly, the most important thing is what's the driver? Why are you doing this? And most people have no clue why they want the goal. Why do I want 1 billion followers on Instagram? Why do I want to become a multimillionaire or billionaire? Why do I want to, harvest the moon for, what was it, platinum or titanium or whatever it was with Naveen? Like, what's the driving force behind that? Some people are conscious of that. Most people are unconscious of that. And so if we're unconscious of what's driving us, the first practical step is understand what's driving you. And what drives every human being to produce any goal or go for anything is the desire to hit a certain emotional target. So what's so ironic, and to me seems so obvious, but it's something that every time I say it, people go, there's an aha moment, like, wow, that's so true, is that we pursue external goals to hit an internal emotional target, which is sort of like eating a carrot and you think it's pizza, or the other way around. You're never gonna actually make it. This is why no matter how successful you become, unless you understand the emotions that you want to cultivate, you'll just be an empty shell. You won't actually have that success. And David Geffen has a great quote. He says, people who think money will make you happy don't have any, right? So at some point you hit a threshold where you realize, oh my God, I'm making all this money, I have all this success, and I'm still frustrated. And then there's this idea that even if I'm successful, that's when I'm supposed to be the most happy, because there's this idea or mindset that success is what brings happiness, and nothing could be further from the truth. So the most important thing for someone to focus on is what drives you, and the answer is emotions. The next question then becomes, well, what emotions are driving me? And the answer to that question takes you down a really deep rabbit hole into all your past hurt, all your unprocessed traumas, all your limiting beliefs, because your nervous system is going to fight you like crazy not to bring those emotions to life in a positive sense.
Pause right there real quick.
The nervous system associates
there's a ton to unpack already. I have some things to say. I don't know if you have any comments first.
Go ahead.
So I have noticed this. I'm trying to hold back a cough. And by the way, okay, Tim Costello couldn't make it because he has a sore throat, but he's here with us in spirit. So, hey, Tim.
Hello.
How you doing? So I've experienced this, and I know people who've experienced this, which is what he talked about. I want to weigh in is people chasing money, chasing all the glitz, glamour, whatever, and then they get it, and it didn't do what they thought it would. So he said it's like you're eating pizza thinking you're getting a carrot, or vice versa, eating a carrot thinking you're getting pizza. And that's absolutely true. Now, I'll tell you a couple stories. So I know a gentleman, and I knew this gentleman when he was just, making an average income. And then this gentleman's income dramatically increased. And probably about 2 years into his ascent, because his business took off, even 1.5 years in, I remember is about 4.5 months into the year. I actually think it's beginning of May. So yeah, 4.5 months in. And he told me that he had already made profit over $700,000 that year. And I told him, I said, wow, that is incredible. That's amazing, because I've never made $700,000 in 4.5 months, and neither had he. And I thought he would be overjoyed. Excuse me. Sorry. And I said, wow, that's amazing. How do you feel? You made that much? Man, that's great. You're going to be on track for like, $1.5 million, $2 million this year. How do you feel? He says, I feel miserable. I'm not good enough. I feel not good enough. And I was shocked by that. And I said, what? You've never made this much money. I've never made that much money. You only did it in 4.5, top 1% in the US makes like 550, 600,000 a year. He did it in 4.5 months. And he said, well, my friend has already made 1.2 million. So because he knew someone who made more than him, he felt not good enough because he wasn't doing as good as this other guy. And so my last job, which I still do a little, was I was a consultant that set up trusts in companies, and my average client was a multimillionaire. Like, I've done projects for 125 million net worth people, 50 million, 30, most of them 1 to 10 million. But I've known several hundred multimillionaires in my life. And I can attest to this, that getting all that money really doesn't make you happy. And I've, been for extended periods of time, well into the six figures myself, to the point where it's like I could pretty much get anything I want. I got my dream car. I had convertibles and souped them up and, souped up the turbo and made them another 100 horsepower on top of that, had the Porsche, all of that, BMW M cars, all that stuff. And still putting 50 grand in the bank a year, living in luxury condos. And I will say that, going to a prime steakhouse anytime I wanted, just for a while I'd go once a week, and then you get used to it and you're like, it's losing its appeal. But, excuse me, having money, you can have fun with it. And it does have its perks. But what happens with a lot of people is once they get it is they're like, okay, I'm not any happier. Okay, now what? Geez, I was chasing this. And the thing is it doesn't bring you meaning or satisfaction in life. It's just like, I got toys now. Great. It doesn't make you feel any better about who you are as a person. It just, I can say having a purpose and feeling you're making a difference in life, that can help you feel somewhat better, unless your core is really broken, and then we need to fix that. But absolutely true what he's saying here. It doesn't bring you happiness. It can be fun. There can be a lot of downsides that come with money, a lot of extra responsibility, a lot of people now hitting you up and asking you for money, and I've been through that as well. And so more positives than negatives, but it isn't what it is cracked up to be. And a lot of people are chasing this thinking it's going to bring them happiness. And it's true. Although it does have certain benefits, it absolutely does not do that. And what we are chasing after is this feeling of, I feel content, I feel at peace, I feel happy, I feel joy, I feel connection. That's really, these emotional targets are what we're really chasing after. But a lot of times we're chasing the wrong thing that won't get us that. What do you think, Jordan? Oh, you're muted.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I have a cough button. So basically what I was thinking about, I was going to add on to what you were talking about, which is this idea of once they, you were talking to this person, they made 700,000, right? And they still felt not good enough because somebody else made more. And I was thinking about the other reactions I've seen with that. Sometimes, people have told me they've made sales, actually, it's kind of ironic that this is the topic, but it's like founders who have made sales, after they make a high ticket sale, they'll tell me things like, oh, well, the moment I make it, I kind of feel like, even though I know I have the value, that I almost like I scammed the other person. Like they really shouldn't have given me their money. Like, yes, I accomplished my goal or whatever, but I still kind of feel like I'm an imposter. Like if they figure out that I'm really not as good as I advertise, that they'll ask for their money back, or they'll, even if I do a good job, they'll ask for their money back. And so it's this constant feeling of, not being good enough. And even after, so just talking about those things you might feel after you accomplish your quote unquote goal. And so it's that constant moving of the goalpost. It's like, well, now I have to move. Now I made, 100,000 in a month. Now I have to make 200,000 to feel good. So it's this never ending cycle. And again, this all comes from, if you don't have your internal traumas and internal self-beliefs handled, you'll never actually, no amount of external success is going to fill that internal void, that, or how I've said it in the past, no amount of external validation will ever make up for a lack of internal validation. And I think sometimes it does. I mean, if you really don't have enough of that internal validation, sometimes it really does take you getting all the success to finally realize that. Because I think some people hear that money can't buy happiness phrase, and he's right. They may not have the money, but sometimes it really does take you getting everything you thought you wanted externally to realize, no, I'm still miserable. And and if you realize it at all, that some people tragically never figure that out. But so that's my comments there.
Yeah, you mentioned imposter and imposter syndrome among successful people. Here's a very interesting phenomenon, because I've been doing research on imposter syndrome. I've helped people with imposter syndrome, probably a dozen or two. And what I've discovered is the more successful people are, the more likely they are to have imposter syndrome. In fact, 2/3 of executives and entrepreneurs who are successful, who are multimillionaires, have imposter syndrome, meaning, excuse me, I'm going to cough. See, look how dedicated we are. We're still here, and you're a little sick and I'm a little sick. Imposter syndrome, meaning a guy's a CEO and he feels he doesn't deserve it. He feels, oh man, they're going to find out I'm really just faking it and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm incompetent. Yeah, that's how they feel, even though they have the accomplishments that prove their competence. And it's literally 2/3 of CEOs. You look at any CEO on the Fortune 500, 2/3 of them have imposter syndrome. Think about that. That's insane. That's insane. 2/3. That's so crazy, but it's true. And so, yeah, I mean, if he is making 100 grand a year doing above average, they probably wouldn't have that imposter syndrome. It's like, so
well,
you have your own set of problems when you become successful, and they're all internal problems, or imposter syndrome and all these other struggles, at least, those problems are still there, or some of them are even amplified by success.
Well, I was going to take the almost a different perspective, which is like, even if you're not a CEO, a high level CEO, yet, even if they're struggling with it, I mean, everybody, it should give you a little bit of a, I don't know, a mental pass, or so to speak. It's like, it's not just you. It's like,
yeah,
a lot of people struggle with this. But the good news is that everybody can also get over this by rewiring the subconscious programs in their head.
Yeah, most people have at least some I'm not good enough in them in some way. You may suppress it and just wonder why, you can't stop drinking or whatever. Well, you're drinking, suppressing it, or you're vaping, suppressing it, for people who vape, or just whatever, yeah, go ahead.
And of course, I think the irony here is that the most success, I think we've both said it before, is that the most successful people believe they are worthy of that success. And so people think that if they allow, I mean, I thought this before I came to see Ryan, was like, 5 or 6 years ago now, but like, it's this idea that, I have to tie all of my happiness to my achievements, but
huge mistake.
I lost my train of thought. There was a point I was trying to make there.
Tying your happiness to your achievements, and you said you used to feel a certain way before you did a session with me. Because you were successful even in high school. You were valedictorian. You're captain of your tennis team.
Yeah.
Were you class president too?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I never did ASB. There was another point I was trying. There was a different point I was trying to make, but I lost my train of thought. Maybe I'll
hate it when that happens. See, I'm 51, and when I do that, I think I'm getting old, and then you do it. It's like, oh no, I'm just like Jordan. He's young.
Yeah, something. There was a more subtle point I was trying to make. Maybe I'll think of it.
Yeah, if you think of it, we'll cover it.
I'll let you know.
Okay, so let's go back and play a little more, and then we're gonna skip around just a little. But this is spot on what this guy is saying.
Positive emotion with threat or vulnerability And it's designed to keep you safe and out of vulnerability. So that's why you feel like you're your own worst enemy, or you quote self-sabotage right before something major happens. It's never self-sabotage. I think people who self-sabotage, panic attacks, these are the worst names you could label these things. Self-sabotage is really self-protection. Your nervous system is trying to protect you from this uncertain threat. Typically a panic attack is a response to something like your intuition is screaming at you and you haven't been listening for 30 years. Of course you're gonna have a panic attack. Typically, especially with functional life coaching, the main assumption is this: whatever the behavior is that you want to change, your current behavior that's not working is the appropriate response to the underlying condition. It's your best efforts. So
that's really interesting.
Yeah, so the first thing you have to do is figure out, well, what's going on here? So it's not necessarily a 1-2 step forward. It's more like, how can I go inside and start to figure out, how am I starting to participate in my reality? How am I a part of the problem that I'm seeing? And that's pretty much all I spend my time helping people do. I don't think people need to become great. I think people are great, and they have a lot of impediments to great.
So I want to cut in here. So I really like that idea that self-protection is really, or self-sabotage is really self-protection.
Yeah.
And really what he's really uncovering is this, what is he just, he's describing exactly what a subconscious program is. You need to go inside, figure out what is that internal. He doesn't use that language, of course, but that's exactly what he's alluding to, is this idea that, or what was the other, self-protection? What was it? Self-sabotage and
he called self-sabotage self-protection.
But there was what was the second one he mentioned?
I'm not sure. But the overall theme is, we have our conscious mind. It's almost like we have two brains, and you could say three, but for our purposes, two. There's our conscious mind that knows what it wants to do, and our subconscious mind, which is primarily concerned with keeping us safe, helping us survive. And if we're safe, then chase pleasure, then go after the win, then go after the big money, etc. But first off, survive. And so when people are self-sabotaging consciously, they don't want to do that. And they don't understand why. Why am I, he talked about panic attacks too. So why am I having a panic attack? Why am I self-sabotaging? Why, procrastination, we help people with that all the time. Why do I have so much anxiety? Well, for example, someone's a kid and he gets bullied all throughout school, and he speaks in front of the class for an assignment, like a speaking assignment, and says something wrong. Everyone laughs at him. And then as a child, he learns, I got to be careful. The world's dangerous. Other people can be dangerous. Other people can reject me, laugh at me, mock at me. Now, as an adult, he's a young adult. He wants to go out and date women. And he's terrified of talking to women, but he's terrified in general of just making more friends. So now he's alone in his basement. And he's like, I really don't want to be here just playing video games. I want to go out. I want to make friends in real life. I want to have interactions with attractive ladies, etc. But I have this horrible anxiety. Why? Why is that happening? Well, that anxiety is the subconscious saying, I need to keep you safe, because I learned when you were a child that the world has all these terrible consequences, and I need to protect you from that. And now he's wondering why he can't go out and get what he wants. Why can't I get the friends? Why can't I get the girls? Why can't I go to a party and just be comfortable? And everyone else is just comfortable and laughing. Why can't I do that? Why am I having this enemy within fighting against me? But the truth is that part of him thinks it's actually helping and serving and keeping him safe. And understanding the motivations of our subconscious, unless you understand it and then do what we do, which is, or we'll do it with you, for you, rewire it and get it so that it's aligned with your conscious. So now both your subconscious and conscious mind are moving in the same direction. Unless you understand it, you're going to struggle. If you're struggling, you'll keep struggling until you fix it.
Yeah, you mentioned
motivations. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, you mentioned in our chat last night, because we were discussing this video, that he integrates a little background on this individual, that he integrates internal family systems with attachment theory and then some vagus nerve trauma informed recovery and regulation work.
Yeah.
You said that's what Chat GPT came out, and that
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense. What's that?
he covers a lot of different areas. He understands that, you know, trauma is stored in our nervous system, and so we have to go in and experience it in our body. I'm almost certain he doesn't do what we do, which is like the deep, quick rewiring, but he understands. What I like about this guy is he doesn't just look at your cognitive brain. He looks at everything else that influences why we do what we do.
Yeah. I don't think I had any more comments on that section in particular.
Okay, yeah, we can keep going. And you'll notice probably like 30 seconds or a minute or so, they're gonna start getting off topic, and at that point we'll go to the 1506.
Okay.
Timestamp.
The Scrum process for project development, agile development. The Scrum Master's job is to not make the team great, it's to remove impediments, right? And so as a coach, that's pretty much what I try to do too, is not make somebody great, because I think God or the universe did a pretty awesome job with your soul. The meat sack is the neurotransmitters, it's the neural pathways, it's the myelin, it's the repetition, it's the building of the emotional fitness. That's what I help people with. So the core assumption is you're not broken, let's just remove impediments. And so we got to go inside and understand why you're stuck first and foremost. And most people are terrified to go there.
Yeah, dude. So
that's probably where we want to skip. So he's talking about all these internal impediments. That's what I just described with the guy who wants to go out and be more social, but he feels all this anxiety because of what happened to him as a kid. That's what we do. Your brain thinks it's protecting you. It thinks it's keeping you safe, but consciously you're like, I want to do this thing and I can't. I'm stuck. It's too hard. You know, even if I muscle and power through it, I still have massive anxiety. And so it's really hard to go out or anything else. Really hard to start a business. Tim Costello's wife, Carrie, tried over 20 times to start a business, and it just deflated every time. We go in one session, fix those impediments, and she now has a business and is making 3 times the income she made as a Walmart store co-manager. So we fix that. We fix the subconscious.
I like, what's his name? What's the guy's name? Mike? Is it?
It's
Martin.
He has kind of a strange name. It's Mastin Kipp.
Mastin.
Yeah.
I like this analogy. I really like that analogy of saying, like, there's nothing wrong with you. You just have a couple of these. I mean, we call them, like, I like to use the word like computer viruses. Like, if your computer gets a virus, there's nothing inherently wrong with the device unless you're using a Windows machine. But other than that, like, there's nothing inherently wrong with it. It just there's just programs that are maladaptive that need to be removed. And I think that frame of mind that is really healthy to have. Like, there's nothing inherently wrong with you. You were born good enough. It's not something that you can earn necessarily. It's something that you just have to. We don't put the idea in your head that you're good enough. You already have it in there. We just
you already are.
Amplify it.
Yeah.
Right.
The reason. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, we just amplify it. We don't add it. We just show it's there and amplify it.
Or we uncover it.
Yes.
Because there can be a lot of beliefs, you know, I'm not good enough, and get rid of all that. And then people are like, oh, wow, I have value just for who I am. And so, you know, one of the things we do that's extremely powerful is we show people you don't have to do or say anything to be good enough. You just are. You just have value. That doesn't mean you get what you want. You have to go out and work for what you want. And it's still, if you want to go out and make millions of dollars, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, freaking go for it. You know, it's fun. You can do fun stuff with it. Just understand what that does for you. It doesn't, excuse me, it doesn't make you feel good enough. It doesn't, you know, being very successful. Again, 2/3 of CEOs have imposter syndrome. But going out and pursuing what you want puts you on a path where you can learn and grow and find a life of purpose and meaning. So I would never chase money for chasing money's sake. Find something you're really passionate about that gives you meaning and purpose. And we got to earn a living. So align earning a living with that, if possible, or find something that you can feel passionate about and also make money at. Now you're living a life of meaning and purpose and making money too. And he's talking about removing all these blocks. Remember, all these internal blocks you may have that make it harder or impossible for you to go where you want to go or do what you want to do. It's your brain trying to keep you safe, and it's based on things that happened in your childhood, and your brain said, "Up, it's unsafe." And anytime a similar pattern comes around, you know, again, kid gets laughed at in school. Now he goes to a party and it's a social group, and it's like, here's another classroom of kids. And then your brain gives you social anxiety. So the patterns we encounter in childhood, and we form certain beliefs in certain circumstances, in similar circumstances as adults, you have the same belief, you have the same feeling. It's just your brain trying to keep you safe, but it is, if it keeps you from getting what you want, it is maladaptive. So we remove those blocks. And if you feel you're good enough just for who you are, then if you fail, you're still good enough. What does that mean? That means you're not afraid of failing anymore. Because people procrastinate. Why does someone have social anxiety? Because they're afraid people are going to laugh at them if they say something wrong. And then that means they're not good enough, and they feel shame. And that's the most painful emotion we have. So if we get in your subconscious to believe I'm good enough just for who I am, if others don't see my value, it doesn't mean I don't have value. It means they can't see it. That's their blindness. That's their problem. But I'm still good enough. Now you're not afraid of others rejecting you. Now you're not afraid of failing. And so now that these two things I just told you remove more internal blocks than anything else. There's a lot of other little things too. But if you're good enough just for who you are, and your happiness and your value as a person is not tied to your success, then you're not freaked out about, uh-oh, here's another threat to my success. Uh-oh, here's another crisis. And if it doesn't work out, then I'm going to, my business goes under, and then I'm a loser. The pain is about, you don't want to be a loser. So just put a belief in you, in your core, that you're good enough no matter what. And you'll see all of these blocks that were holding you back before just melt away and disappear. Again, there's other stuff too, but those are the two big ones. Wouldn't you agree? You're good enough as you are, and failure and rejection doesn't affect that.
And I was and to expand on that, I was thinking of a story that one of my clients was telling me recently, and he was saying that he was struggling to make content for his business because he felt like, oh, I don't feel like I can be authentic on camera because I don't feel good enough as I am. I kind of feel like, again, back to that imposter syndrome thing. And what's interesting is that the weekend after we worked together for 2 days, and then actually we did 3 sessions together. And then on the following day, after the 3rd session, I noticed what he was posting, and he was talking about how, ironically, he was like, I'm sharing, I understand how you guys, because, he's trying to relate to his audience. And he's saying, I understand, I don't always feel good. Sometimes I don't always feel good enough. So I understand what it's like to go through these emotions and feel like, you're not always like, sometimes we always project on social media that our lives are always this fantastic, ride. We show the highlight reel, and sometimes we don't always feel like that. And of course, the interesting thing is I was reading some of his comments that he was getting, and people were saying, yeah, that's so relatable. It's so relatable.
100,000%. Yeah, keep going.
Exactly. And I think that that's just so cool that, when you actually open up and share some of that stuff that we'd actually managed to remove, but he was then being authentic in his struggles that other people can relate to that.
And you're connecting with people.
Right. And so I think that I think we've done a show on authenticity and relatability before, but I think that there's that other component of how do you connect to other people as well, is that you show the real part of yourself. And that doesn't mean like this, I think there's this,
doesn't mean you're emotionally vomiting to try and get validation. It means you're just keeping it real.
Right. And I think I think sometimes the irony when we are nervous to show other people who we really are is sometimes the most liberating feeling. Like I think there's that quote, like, on the other side of all your greatest fears is sometimes like what's like the most amazing feelings in the world. It's kind of like the feel. I think I've used the analogy of like skydiving. It's like, if you've never been skydiving, you'll be terrified up until the moment you start falling out of that plane. And the moment you start falling, at least for me, you experience the greatest feeling of bliss you've probably ever felt in your life.
Yeah, I've been skydiving too.
Oh, you have? Yeah. It's fantastic. I've been 4 times because of that. So that's basically what I wanted to say on that part.
Okay, cool. Yeah, go ahead to the 1506.
All right.
Because right when Tom opens his mouth, Tom Bilyeu on the right, that's where it gets way off topic here. So you get to 1506 and we'll resume.
All right. 15. I'll zoom back out.
But when you look at, like, for example, like the 10 Commandments, right? Or the Sermon on the Mount, or some of these, or like the Lotus Sutra with the Buddha, there's certain things that they say, like, for example, Jesus, above all the other commandments, he says, love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. He didn't say be a Christian, be a Jew, be a Muslim.
What a lot of people don't get, love thy neighbor as thyself, is you got to love yourself first. So if you hate yourself, you can't love your neighbor as yourself because you don't love yourself. So just wanted to point that out. Love yourself and then love your neighbor as yourself, because you cannot love your neighbor as yourself if you don't love yourself.
Well, it's like that, it's like the airplane safety video. Put the oxygen mask on yourself before helping others.
Yeah. And a lot of Christians don't understand this. Oh, I just have to sacrifice myself for everyone. And you see a lot of codependent Christians doing that. It's like, no, as yourself, you love yourself too. He's saying that there. It's you cannot love others if you don't love yourself. You can't.
And why
you can serve others, you can help others, but it won't be true love. It'll be, I'm serving you, and in return, I want some validation. That's what it turns into if you serve others and don't love yourself. That's what it turns into, codependency. Go ahead.
And do you think, I'm just asking about that from the religious perspective, do you think that that's like they already have those negative belief sets that are then amplified by the religious ideals, or what they think are the ideals? Or do you think that's something that's unique to those people who are religious? Like, does that make sense?
I just think they're raised a certain way, and these teachings are presented to them a certain way, and it's just very common, in our society. I was raised in the Mormon religion, but my mom has narcissistic personality disorder. I think it's a combination of things. I think it's a viewpoint of society, their pastor, their congregation, their parents, all of that, combined with how they interpret things as a kid. But most people don't understand that when it says love your neighbor as yourself, that means as yourself means you love yourself too.
That's what I was going to ask, is do you think it's more like well, that's because I wasn't really raised in the church, so I know you were. So that's why I'm asking. So do you think it's the pastor or whatever? Do you think he's teaching it with that perspective in mind, or do you think it's a misinterpretation of the teaching? Like,
I think some people get it. I think most Christians don't really understand that you loving yourself is part of the deal.
So the people teaching it also don't understand it.
A lot of them. Yeah. I mean, some do, some don't, but the majority, don't. What you know, it's this you know, Jesus dying on the cross, sacrificing everything. I think people look at that and they say, oh, you know, that's what I should do, and they interpret it through that lens. I should just, and again, this is not all people, but if you look at codependency people don't love themselves. They're constantly doing things for others to try to get others to love them, to fill up what's missing inside, but they're not giving it to themselves. And what, half of our society is codependent or more, the majority, you know, what the studies say, up to 90% mildly codependent. It's you go on AI, and AI pegs it at 40 to 60% are at least moderately codependent. That's crazy. You know, so we see successful CEOs, 2/3 of them have imposter syndrome, feel they don't belong there, they're not worthy, they're not competent enough to be there. And then you see people who are serving others and not loving themselves. It's all tied to this toxic shame. I'm not good enough. What percent of our society has that? A majority. Why do people chase all this fame and riches and all this stuff? Because they're like, I know if I become rich and famous, or just rich, or just whatever they tell themselves, then I'll be good enough. And then they get there and they're not, because they had outside success does not rewire your subconscious belief system. Yeah.
Yep, I agree. All right, we'll keep rolling here.
And that's what this guy's doing.
God, whatever.
He's you know, he's trying to rewire the subconscious with what he does. He just has different methodologies than what we have, which is again, if you watch my latest batch of 10 client testimonials, every single client, 1 or 2 sessions, that's it. You know, in the video section, 1 or 2 sessions, big massive shifts, and then all the success comes to him. It's crazy. But yeah, keep going. That's what you got to
love your creator. That's all he said. And it's an emotional state, by the way. He didn't say think about God. He said love, which is an active emotion. And then love your neighbor as yourself, not your Christian neighbor, your white neighbor, your black neighbor, your gay neighbor, your straight. It's just love your neighbor as yourself. And he didn't mean just your neighbor next to you. What he means is every other human being and planet and animal on the planet. So if that's a law, so there's something to the order of the universe where there is law, there are cause and effect, there is karma. If I do this, then this will happen. And eventually, like if you look at like what's happening right now with artificial intelligence, you know, the big fear is, you know, what will happen when it becomes sort of super intelligent, if you will. But the issue is, it's not really artificial intelligence. What we're actually creating is algorithms to be able to weigh and measure beyond our own capacity what's already happening. That's all it is. So it's an extension of our own intelligence. Everything that's happened on this planet came from the earth. So there's nothing artificial about it. It's actually very organic. It's the natural, we've come to a place where we've always outsourced the brain, right? From the second we realized there was money, we would start like writing down 1 on the rock with chalk. Like that was the first upload to the cloud, right? Just a very primitive version of it. So there's nothing artificial about what's happening. But the question is, how much data can we take in? How much can we weigh and measure? And then how many different correlations can we come to? And my assumption is, if we could take in all the data that's happening all at once in the entire universe, then that's pretty much what God does. So it's basically a set of patterns and you know, you look at like any 12-step process, any healing process, there's a pattern for hitting rock bottom. There's a pattern for, you know, how you are going to get better. Everything is a pattern and a process. And then you put in free will, and that's where things get really interesting with quantum physics, because, you know, every quantum scientist will tell you, well, we can kind of think what's going on is going on, but the problem is when we observe something, we don't know what someone's going to choose. And so that's kind of like the part of quantum physics where it's like not quite a perfect algorithm, and that's where things get very interesting. And I think that's where probability comes in, because there's something about our own ability to choose that throws the whole, like, it's almost like there's like God's playing with like dice, but then there's even more dice because we're being able to choose. What the hell does that have to do with your day-to-day life? Very simply put is this. I think that there are common patterns of success and failure. And what most people do is they take a pattern that may have been a failure pattern, which, by the way, failure only leads to more lessons, right? So they take this idea of what failure is, and they don't just say that was a result I produced. They take it personally, and they take the pattern personally. It's like taking winter personally. Could you imagine, like, oh my God, I'm such a cold person right now? Like, it makes no sense. It's just it's a predictable pattern. So with what's happening with the quantified self world and what's happening with all the things that are happening with AI, what I love about AI is it's not just quantitative analysis, it's qualitative analysis is starting to emerge. And that's where I think the real cool stuff is going to start to happen, because like with Apple X just got announced. Like facial recognition. Like, I guarantee you one day you'll be able to send ads to people who have sad faces. I guarantee you that will happen.
Wow.
Right? Like,
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be amazing.
You're absolutely right.
But it's just pattern recognitions, right? And that's exactly what, I mean, if you think about like synchronicity and all that law of attraction stuff, which is true, just not a complete thought. There's a lot more to it than just hoping for stuff. But you know, it's the universe responds to you, and that's what we're building out, that model for ourselves. Essentially is what's happening. If we're made in God's image, then we're sort of recreating this in our own image, and we're being able to identify all these different patterns. And there's all kinds of patterns. There's health patterns, relationship patterns, purpose patterns. There's
what are some of the patterns that people get into that get them in trouble?
Oh man, well, I call them survival patterns. That's what I call them, because most people's nervous system is their enemy, and it should be their ally.
Because it's feeding like anxiety and fear that they don't know how to respond to, or in what way is it their enemy?
Well, if you look at like the evolution of the human nervous system, it's I mean, literally from the beginning of when we started to evolve, it's millions of years old, right? So it needs a software upgrade a little bit, because the problem is, back when it was, you know, just like lion and tiger days, you see something orange that kind of looks like a lion that ate dad 10 years ago, you're gonna get out of there, right? You're not gonna question whether it's, you know, something different. Today, we go through some type of traumatic event when we're a child that's either significant or something simple, like my father was 5 minutes late picking me up from school. It doesn't have to be some huge trauma. We make up a meaning and we make up some interpretation of that event, and then we continue to recreate it, because anything outside of that seems like a threat. And so the nervous system says, you know what?
So that's a lot to chew through. How do you think these patterns play out as far as subconscious beliefs are concerned, Jordan?
Well, I like his point about, as a kid, we're constantly trying to derive meaning. And so that's why I've had clients who've told me, and have probably told you the same thing, like, oh, well, my childhood wasn't XYZ, it was fine. It's like, it's not even, that's, comparing yourself to others doesn't make any sense. I mean, the example he gave is really a good example, because you can take something seemingly pretty small and then derive a whole ton of meaning out of it. Yeah. And, you know, and I've had clients, when I've regressed them back to the root cause of these issues, you know, how many times have you had a client tell you the same thing of like, oh, I didn't remember that. I forgot that even happened. That seems like so small at the time. Like, it wasn't even like, I didn't realize I drove so much meaning out of that. And it's done studies on, you know, and there's this idea where there's no such thing as being raised in the same household, because even if you're twins, you know, because you have different experiences from the other. You know, they've done analyses where
it's not going to be a carbon copy for each child,
right,
as to
right
what they experience in childhood and then how they develop and the beliefs they form.
Yeah, I mean, two people can experience the same so-called traumatic event, but only one of them was actually traumatized from it. The other, like, and I think that the other thing is, like, it doesn't even have to happen to them. I think one of the hypnosis textbooks I was reading, you know, a couple of years ago, was talking about two twins that were watching something happen to somebody else. Like, they were watching the neighbor's kids playing with each other, and one of the neighbor's kids was bullying the other.
Yeah.
And so one of the twins takes the analysis of like, oh, well, that's how you achieve power over others, is you can bully them. And the other twin says, oh crap, I need to protect myself, otherwise I'm going to become,
otherwise I'll be bullied like that kid.
Right. Same
So
event, not even
something, in two different beliefs form and get lodged in their subconscious when they're young, and then it'll play out with, you'll see repeated behavioral patterns for the rest of their life based on that.
Yeah. And so back to this idea, like, it doesn't matter what you went through as a kid. If you have these subconscious issues, everyone deserves to clear their subconscious programs. It doesn't matter who you are, what you went through.
Yeah. So I agree. And what I invite our audience to do is, if you're not where you want to be, or maybe you are where you want to be in life, but you're still not happy or not fulfilled, or, you know, no one has it down perfectly. Like, even I, you know, there's still some small things here and there I need to clear. And then, like, every now and then I'll clear one. I'll be like, why'd I wait so long to clear that? I got all the big stuff out long ago. Thank goodness. My life's way better now because of it. But what I invite our audience to do is think about, do you have any behavioral patterns in your life that you don't like? Such as, you know, I keep getting into failed relationships. I keep going for, like, a woman's like, I keep going for a certain type of guy who then later ends up being a narcissist and abusing me. And I'm on my 4th marriage. Or you've just had 5 bad relationships. And you know, it's maybe not all of them were the same type of guy, but 4 out of 5 were. And you see this common thread. Well, that's a pattern. Or, you know, there's this Netflix show, and I think you got about 5 minutes left. Is that right, Jordan? Before you got to go?
Yeah, 7 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
So, watch. There's a documentary about Charlie Sheen on Netflix right now, and they interview his childhood friend who has been friends with Charlie's entire life. And actually, Charlie Sheen was also interviewed on Dax Shepard's. That's Kristen. What's her name? Chris. I don't want to say Stewart. There's this Dax Shepard. He's a former Hollywood actor. He interviewed Charlie, and the same thing came out, that the childhood friend is that anytime Charlie will get big success, and then he will tear it all down and blow it all up, and then he'll get big success again. And his childhood friend says Charlie keeps getting this success, but once he gets it, I believe he doesn't think he deserves it, and so he blows it all up. And so Charlie Sheen has that pattern. And so it's good for all of us to look inwards and say, what patterns do we have in our life that aren't serving us? And then find out what is the root under that pattern. Repeats over and over because our subconscious mind has certain motivations. Our subconscious thinks, excuse me, sorry. It thinks it's doing us a favor. Maybe the thing for Charlie is, wow, I'm at this high position. I don't deserve to be here. And it's safer. It's safer to be at the bottom. So I'm going to take you back to the bottom where it's safe, Charlie. You know, maybe his subconscious is doing something like that. Excuse me. Hold on.
P-dubs, yes, the free course is still active. I just put it in the chat, and it's also been scrolling along the bottom of the live stream. So yes, you can get all free stuff.
Thank you, Jordan.
And
so look at the patterns in your lives, the ones that aren't serving you. It could be a pattern of, anytime this certain thing comes up, I procrastinate it. Anytime there's a big exam for school, I procrastinate it, and then I cram all night and then study and get a lower grade. So look for these patterns and then figure out, why is my brain. And again, you can do a free 30-minute consult with me. Do you offer 30-minute initial free consults, Jordan?
Yeah, you
do like 10 or 15. I know you do so. Get with Jordan or me, and we'll help you sort it out, and then find that part in your subconscious. It's usually your subconscious trying to protect you, trying to keep you safe. But if it keeps you from getting what you want, let's rewire it and remove that block, remove that impediment, and now the pattern's gonna be different. So once you remove these internal blocks that you don't like, they're creating patterns in your life over and over you don't like. Change the underlying subconscious belief, and then the pattern is different, and now you're getting a pattern you want. A pattern of successful relationships, a pattern of good friends. You know, all my friends now are great human beings. I used to have friends that would bully me, pick on me. You know, that was my pattern for a long time. Fix this up. Now my friends are great human beings, and if they disrespect me, then they're not my friend anymore. I mean, I'll call them on it once or twice. If they keep doing it, they're not my friend anymore. It's just because I changed the pattern. So your outside world then changes. The underlying belief changes. So do you have anything to add, Jordan? Anything else you want to say?
I was just thinking about my friends, like back in like middle school, elementary school. I just remember defining moments when I was like, you know what? I'm tired of being treated this way. I'm moving, like defining moments. And I think well, when you value yourself, when you value your own, when you feel like you have self-worth and you feel like you actually have some self-esteem, you're like, you know what? I deserve to be treated better. I'm tired of this. And it can be difficult.
What was your old belief? The new belief is I am worthy of good friends, or I value myself. What was the old belief for you that you changed?
Well, I think perhaps some of those younger relationships were out of necessity. And what I mean by that is when I was little, I was in this gifted or highly capable program.
Oh, I was too. That's great.
And the thing is, what that ended up doing was I was around the same 30 kids for 5 years straight. You know, typically in schools, you get mixed with different people every single year, so you get a fresh start. That didn't happen to me. And so you either found friends in those 30 kids, or you were just an outcast.
Yeah.
So you really only had two choices. But eventually I started branching out to other kids and other in other classes and things. And I realized, I don't have to be trapped by this anymore. And eventually when I started realizing, wait a minute, there is something better out there. I don't have to be trapped and I deserve better. Then I was able to just, cut ties and move on to something better. And it's because I feel like I deserved it finally.
All right. So, really good. When you change the underlying belief, then the patterns in your life change. And we've both seen it over and over. And that's a great example there. You change your belief system, and then you just started making other friends in other groups. So that's all we have for today. Hope you guys have found this useful. If you want to start changing your own patterns in your life, we have free community with a basic but free and powerful self-hypnosis program, school.com/RyanFowlerSOS-7231. It's been going across the banner at the bottom there. And we would absolutely love to help you guys up level. And you can do it. You don't need to be, if you have negative patterns in your life over and over and over again, first you got to notice them. Then we can change. Then we can fix it for you. You don't need to stay stuck in patterns that aren't serving you. You really can overcome that. We can rewire it. You literally rewire these deep belief systems, get to the root, find out why your brain is doing what it's doing the way it is, and then change it to something that does serve you. You can absolutely do that because you truly do have more power than you know. That's our show. Thank you.